In 1980, a worker at Westfield High School in Thousand Oaks, California, is annoyed when he sees a mannequin on the slope near one of his school's parking lots. The school had been experiencing vandalism in the recent months, and this was yet another example of things being left at the school. But as he drew closer, he realized that what he was seeing was a pregnant woman. She'd been brutally stabbed, her body left in the dirt. Without identification on her, investigators set to work to find out who she was and who murdered her, but the answers wouldn't come readily or easily. Now known as Ventura County Jane Doe, this is her story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
Vanessa, do you have any idea what we're talking about today?
So I have no idea, but I do know that this is sad, right? And it's been bumming you out.
Yes. So I've been upset the entire time I've been working.
That's the only thing. So this is how it works. So I see Amy usually at some other point during the week when we're not recording, and I'll be like, how's your week going? And then she tells me her progress on getting prepared for our episode. And this week it was just sadness.
It was. I mean, you do know that, and you do know that it takes place in the 1980s because I did post
okay,
a
so I
1980s
didn't
advice
because
column.
I'm not always super observant. I did see it, but I didn't connect the two things. Well, also, you're always to be fair, you're always working on all kinds of stuff.
I am,
and you
yes.
tend to take side routes.
I do. There are side quests.
Yes. So to be fair, seeing that from you is just one of your typical random tidbits.
Right. So I posted,
It really pissed me off.
Right. It was a 1980s, well, specifically 1980 letter to an advice columnist who's quite popular at the time, Ann Landers, asking for advice. It was basically the writer was complaining about how their friend's child died in an accident, and what made it worse,
even worse,
was that this 19-year-old woman had birth control pills in her possession. And the person was scandalized. The parents of the girl who died, scandalized.
Completely.
Yes.
That was worse than this child's death.
Right.
This woman's death.
Right.
So, because, as she put it in the letter, how do we keep our daughters pure for the marriage bed?
Yeah. Oh my.
Yuck.
So sometimes I take those side quests,
yes.
and I'm just I just need to talk to someone about what.
But you didn't post Ann Landers' response. Did you ever read it?
I did.
Did you find it?
Ann Landers. I mean, it was pretty.
Do we approve of what she said?
Not from a 2024 perspective, but basically she was saying hey, teenage girls and women are going to have sex.
They're going to, and this one was trying to protect herself.
Yes. And so she did talk about it's important to talk to our children about protection. So as a whole.
So Anne did okay.
She did okay. I mean, there was some language in there that I was Anne, pull it together. But I mean, this is also these kind of finding these different tidbits of things that make me think about something is actually why I started my newsletter Girl Hunt, because I was I need a place to unload all my thoughts and feelings.
You need a place to put it.
Yes.
So you
put it
in the newsletter.
I put it in the newsletter, right? Okay, but basically that has nothing to do with the topic of today.
Seriously?
No.
So the only thing is it's both 1980?
Yeah.
Oh.
1980. That's the year.
Were you just trying to submerge yourself in 1980 culture?
It was it was in an article that was next to articles that I was researching. And I was oh.
You can't ignore those outside articles, can you? No. Okay.
No. I practically read the whole paper.
Oh. Yeah.
I just get distracted, okay?
Okay.
Anyway, so
like we are right now?
Yeah, so we are going to get to the point. We're going to stop the chit-chat.
Aww.
Because this is a pretty long case to kind of explain.
Okay.
We're going to have to switch gears, so to speak, quite a lot as we're covering this, just because think of it as having like a lot of different tentacles. Like,
So we're going to, will it connect?
it all connects, but it's just going to take a little while to explain how everything kind of fits together.
Okay.
So you're going to have to pay attention.
That's specifically mentioned for me, not you guys, just so you know, because I am known to have a very fleeting attention span.
Right. So we're focused.
I focus.
Vanessa.
Okay.
The other thing that I want to mention, well, there's two things. One, this is an unidentified person. I think that it is so close to being solved.
Really?
I think it just needs a little push/nudge to make that happen. The other thing is that we don't typically have a lot of graphic detail in our episodes, but to illuminate, make clear kind of some developments in the case, we do have to include some details. There are several sexual assault mentions throughout, just so that people are aware.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it as downplayed as possible.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to dive in because we have to go to Westfield High School in Thousand Oaks, California. Friday, July 18th, 1980. It's hot, but the varsity football team was practicing in the early afternoon heat. And the Thousand Oaks is considered an upscale neighborhood of Los Angeles that wasn't really visible at this Westfield High School. So you're already scrunching your face.
So the high school does not feel like the rest of Thousand Oaks.
No. Okay, so
that's weird.
Right, because usually
right, they reflect usually your neighborhood and your schools are a reflection of each other.
Yeah, but there were massive budget cuts. This is actually kind of the information that you find out when you go on a side quest, by the way.
Okay.
There were massive budget cuts at the high school, and they were facing a lot of challenges this year.
Okay.
So, like, turf wouldn't be installed on the athletic fields until later in the year, but that was kind of like the least of their worries. Like, when students finally started that academic year, they were faced with, like, lack of water pressure, a need for new air conditioning and plumbing, as well as the fear of mudslides.
What?
Yeah. Mudslides from the hills above campus. In fact, in front of the school, like, the ground was slipping away, threatening to take out one of their parking lots unless something was done to shore it up.
And this was all because of budget cuts?
Yes.
And we couldn't do, like, fundraisers? Where was the PTO?
We can't. Right?
We can't. Okay.
So things were so bad that they'd even started turning off the parking lot lights at night in the hopes of saving some money on electricity. This likely is what led to an increase of vandalism in the parking lots.
Is it also what led to this case?
Vanessa, focus.
I know, I can't. Well,
Don't jump ahead. Okay.
Well, I'm scared now.
You're scared. The parking lot lights are off and you're scared.
Well, right.
Okay.
Well, what if, it gets dark so early some nights, and if a kid is leaving school late.
Yeah. Well, right now it's summer.
We're causing a safety situation. It's summer? Okay.
It is summer. Yeah. Okay. Now, parents were gathered there that July day. There's this failing school system and lack of amenities. That's probably not the front of their minds because they're watching to see the outcome of this football scrimmage. But even that was interrupted by the sounds of an ambulance and a fire truck arriving at the school. The vehicles pulled into one of the parking lots, and soon police arrived as well. Gameplay continued, despite the obvious activity in the parking lot. But as some of the families and students left, they paused to watch investigators combing through the embankment between the upper and lower parking lots, sifting through the brush and grass. What they would soon learn is that at 12:40 that afternoon, while the football team was deep into their scrimmage, a school maintenance worker had found the body of a young woman in the dirt on the embankment. At first, as he worked on the school landscaping, he thought she was a mannequin because her skin was so pale and her body stiff. And when he investigated, the sight was pretty horrific. The young woman was partially undressed and covered in blood and had been left at his school.
It's starting quite abruptly here.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't expecting to get in that quickly because normally we ease into it.
There's no easing in today.
No.
No. Within 3 hours, police had already searched the scene and removed the young woman's body. Little was found at the parking lot itself, including any identification, increasing the importance of the autopsy. By that afternoon, Dr. Bruce Woodling and Dr. C. Peter Speth had both examined her. Now, we're going to have some details here that are pretty upsetting. The woman was small, coming in at around 5'2" and around 110 pounds, and it was clear that she had experienced quite a violent death. She'd been stabbed 16 times, mostly around the abdomen, stomach, and buttocks. Dr. Speth believed that because the injuries were on both sides of her body, it was possible that she had been rolling while attacked or had been flipped over by her attacker. He did know that the attacker used 2 different blades in the attack. One was likely a 5.5-inch blade, and the other was something more akin to an X-Acto knife. Now, the horror likely grew as they examined her body. The knife wound to her buttocks had gone through her pelvis, ultimately cutting into her amniotic sac, because you see, this woman was at least 4 to 5 months pregnant. Her fetus also died in the attack. With the severity of her injuries, the woman actually had very little blood left in her body, but the scene at the parking lot had been relatively bloodless. This detail, combined with the bloody drag marks at the scene, led investigators to believe that she was likely killed someplace else and then left at the parking lot. The lack of any disturbances in the brush or grass there also showed that she was likely deposited from the lower parking lot rather than rolled down from the upper one. Dr. Speth said that there must be a lot of blood somewhere else, since clearly it wasn't at the crime scene.
Does it feel like it was a strange place for her attacker to leave her, like at this high school?
Like, why the high school?
I mean, was it because it was summer? Was it because that light was out? Like, why would somebody... It seems like such a public place compared to, like, what you're usually telling me.
Yeah, so, like, why here?
Why there?
I mean, I think there's a variety of things, and I can't get into the mindset of what happened, but I would say, you know, in an area like this where there's like a population, it's kind of suburban, but then you have like this school that's kind of set off on a hillside with all the lights off. That's going to feel more remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like possibly the most remote place available to him at that moment.
Right. Yeah.
Ugh.
So the analysis into whether or not she was sexually assaulted did take longer. There was semen on her clothing as well as inside of her, but they hedged around on saying that she was assaulted, indicating that it was clear that she had sex shortly before her death. Now, Dr. Woodling, though, did say that there were abrasions on her genitalia associated with forced penetration. While they knew how she died, they didn't know who she was or who did this to her. They quickly publicized her details, but no one came forward, and they couldn't align her with any missing persons cases. The parking lot she was found in was less than a half of a mile from the Los Angeles border, so investigators went to LA to see if there were any fingerprints there that matched. None did. Eventually, they decided she must not be local because there were no missing persons matches. Some went so far as saying that she must have been in the United States illegally and was possibly a recent migrant, but her extensive dental work was distinctly American, so they moved away from that idea. They did believe, though, that she was of Hispanic descent. And as we often say, police, sometimes they believe that in cases like hers, the identification of the victim can lead to the identification of the killer. But with this case, they're stymied. Like, no one's reported seeing her. No one reported seeing her killer. The best lead they had was a single phone call they received, which was someone saying they'd seen 2 motorcycles and 1 truck leaving the school parking lot. But with the darkness, they couldn't tell what the license plates were, and they didn't have any other information.
2 motorcycles and a truck, too. It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like one of those things, like, is it...
Like, only the truck would be right?
Right. And then, but like, also, like, is this something? Is it not something?
Right. It doesn't mean anything, right? Without having more information.
Yeah. Was it just some, like, people in the area that's just
Right.
not connected to this? Yeah, they've got nothing. Okay. So we're going to put her story on pause for a moment. So we're just going to keep thinking about her, but we're switching gears because meanwhile, over 200 miles away in Lemoore, California, a teenager by the name of Scott and his 2 teenage brothers were living through a nightmare. The month before, in June, their mother, Carolyn, had picked up a recently paroled man from a Reno bus station and driven him the nearly 6 hours to their house to live with them. Carolyn had met the man through a biker magazine that ran prison pen pal personals.
We often talk about women who date men in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Most of the time, I feel personally like that might not be a good idea.
Yeah. I mean,
because you don't know the person in person.
And
they didn't meet them prior to their imprisonment. There are many reasons to not bring them near your young kids.
Exactly. I mean, there's like a creator on TikTok, and I don't know their name, so my apologies. But what they were doing is they were showing like prison personals and then reading through the accounts of like what those people had done, right? I think that's like a stark contrast. Yeah.
To like what the person looks compared to what
what they did.
It doesn't always align, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this man, he's now there. His nickname, by the way, is Poochie. But like this man is far from like soft and cuddly, right? Like we're going to call him W. When Carolyn met him, W was in prison for a crime that he committed in October 1977, so just a little over 2.5 years before. Back then, the 25-year-old W had picked up a 20-year-old woman who had been hitchhiking on Topanga Canyon Boulevard near Los Angeles. When she got in and closed the door, she immediately noticed that there wasn't a handle on the door. She was trapped.
Okay, so dating this man is clearly not a good idea.
No. Okay.
So if a man will do that to one woman,
yeah,
and I feel like that's not all he did.
No, so she's trapped in the car, and the man, he drives her to the Santa Monica Mountains where he kicked her in the head, choked her until she was unconscious, and then sexually assaulted her. He eventually left her in the dirt in this remote area, and she survived, and the next day he was arrested. He was charged with kidnapping, assault, and rape, though prosecutors ended up dropping the rape charge.
Are we going to know why?
No, I mean, they just decided not to pursue it. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, pleading guilty, he was sentenced to just 4 years in prison and released early in June of 1980. His probation report when he was paroled stated that he was extremely dangerous and that he demonstrated no remorse for his crimes. So when Carolyn has this man move in with her and her 3 children, this is the kind of man that is moving into their house.
And she knows this.
I mean, I'm assuming.
Like, part of being like a girl's girl is to not date the guy that abused any woman.
Yeah. So she moves him in, but this is like a compounding problem because just
around
a few weeks,
her children. Okay, sorry. Sorry.
Just a few weeks after this, in July, Carolyn left W in charge of her 3 boys and started an alcohol detox program. Not long after, Scott said that W disappeared for a night, and when he came back to their home, the oldest 2 boys, which included Scott, were sent out to his green Chrysler and charged with cleaning blood from the rear footwell of his car. Now, W said that the blood was from a deer that he hit and then put in his car to move it from the road, which if anyone has ever experienced living in an area where deer accidents happen, just shoving it into your back seat is not likely.
To remove it from the road when you can just push it over.
Yeah, and drag it.
Yeah.
Now, later, he did tell Scott that he'd met some broad in a bar. Those are his words. And that he'd killed her.
Okay.
So.
He told this to the teenager.
Yeah. So this teenage boy whose mom.
This is like, and after he makes him clean up the blood.
Yeah.
Then he tells him that he killed some broad.
Yes.
Okay. This is, yeah.
Yeah. On August 28th, a little over a month after Scott's interaction with W, a 19-year-old woman whose identity that I'm just going to leave out here, she left her night class and was walking to her car. She'd left her car parked on the corner of Myrtle Avenue and Mooney Boulevard on the College of Sequoia's campus in Visalia, California. And though there were a lot of cars still there, there weren't many people. Just as she unlocked her car, she felt someone approaching her from behind. Turning, she saw a man with a knife, and he told her that she needed to get in the car. She refused. Likely this baffled him, and the two basically stared at each other from, as she says, less than 2 feet separating them. He told her not to scream and not to do anything to call attention to herself. And then he demanded her purse. Again, she refused. Instead, she took $30 from her wallet and she handed it to him. And as she did, she slid into her car and locked the door. And from inside, she could hear him say, "You're fine," before he left.
What was he saying you're fine about?
Basically, like, "I'm not going to kill you."
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if she knows that at the time, but like...
Oh my gosh.
So what she doesn't know is that tucked into the $30 that she gave him was a layaway slip with her name, address, and phone number on it. And she says the next day she got a phone call at her parents' house. That's where she lived. And the man on the other end sounded like the man in the parking lot. And he said, and I don't actually want to say what he said.
We don't use that word.
No.
Okay. Well,
he basically threatened her. He said, "I'm going to come for you," basically. Yeah. Now, later she said she saw him riding past her house on a motorcycle, or thought she did. On September 4th, just days after her encounter, another young woman was on her way to her car at the College of Sequoia's campus. She had just put her key in when he forced her to move over to the driver's seat. And with her hands bound with duct tape, he drove her to the Sequoia shopping mall, but was worried that it was too public of a location and they'd be seen. And from there, he drove to a rural location, forcing her to perform oral sex on him during the drive. When they stopped, he raped her. Later, she said she thought he was going to kill her there and leave her in the cornfield. Instead, she told him she needed to be home or else her husband would worry. And he said he was sorry, and then told her if she wanted to report what he had done to her to the police, she should go ahead, that he wouldn't blame her for doing so.
This guy is like all over the place.
Yes.
I'm terrified at this point for the woman with the layaway slip.
Right.
Is she...
So that is...
Did she stay fine?
She's okay. Because
she is okay? Okay.
What happens is basically, this college campus has had 2 students attacked.
Luckily, they both lived, but the second one had quite a horrible experience.
So what happens is they basically have a stakeout on the campus, like night after night, looking for this man, right? Eventually they find him. He's arrested. So he's captured. It's like...
Okay.
Whew. And within a month, he pled guilty to rape, robbery, and kidnapping. He was to serve 3 years on the robbery charge, 8 years on the rape charge, 1 for what they call the special allegation, which I believe was the forced oral sex, and that those should be served before a life sentence on the kidnapping charge. Now, W was sent to go to prison for the rest of his life, and I'm sure there was some relief to his victims knowing that.
And to the teenage boys.
Oh my God. Yeah. So he's set to spend life in prison, but that's not quite what's about to happen.
Does he not serve his time?
Okay. Well, this is a little complicated. We're going to get into some politics here.
Okay.
So in 2003, there was a recall election, and that's when Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes governor of California. Now,
so is he in prison from?
Yes, he's in prison
from that point to this. Okay,
mm-hmm. So he's
okay.
Been in there for quite a while.
Okay.
So we're up to 2003. So he's been in prison this entire time. Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes governor of California. And one of the immediate pressures during his gubernatorial tenure were issues in the California prison system. This included widespread allegations of abuse as well as issues with overcrowding. During his time as governor, he kind of moved back and forth on those issues. And in 2004, there were a lot of rumors swirling that he would be releasing prisoners early to cut down on overpopulation. We'll be back in a moment. Now, W, again, he's in prison. And though he had a life sentence, he was eligible for parole after serving 19 years. If we math that out, that means he was eligible for parole starting at around 2000. And this is now 2004. So he's been eligible for parole for 4 years.
Okay.
So though he hadn't been released yet, the parole board did approve his release, stating in a psychological report that he was a less than average danger to the public.
Less than average?
Yes.
What are we using as an average benchmark?
Right.
Rapey, serial killy.
Well, so we don't know he's serial killer-y at this point.
Well, serial rapey?
Serial rapist who has kidnapped one woman.
And threatened violence.
And threatened violence, yes.
Okay.
Now, Schwarzenegger, he is experiencing a lot of pressures on both sides of this issue, but he hires this man named Hickman to head up the Youth and Adult Correctional Agency. And Hickman is adamant that prisoners won't be released early to save money. And so, with W being set to be released, Schwarzenegger actually convenes a hearing and the parole is rescinded. So really, he's not going anywhere for the time being.
Good.
Okay. Now, 2008, so several years later, something major happens. DNA had been taken from a crime scene in 1980, and they have run it again, and identifies W as a possible suspect in an unsolved homicide.
Our first lady?
Because you're thinking it's the first lady in the parking lot. No.
Oh, okay.
Not her.
Not her.
Because on July 15th, 1980, this is just 3 days before the woman in the parking lot was found, another woman was found in Kern County, California. An irrigation worker at an almond field in McFarland, California, found the body of a woman. She was in the fetal position and had been stabbed multiple times. Now, like Ventura County Jane Doe, which is how we're going to call the first lady in the parking lot.
Okay.
Kern County Jane Doe, this second woman, had no identification on her. It also wasn't clear who her killer might be. They knew she was of Hispanic or Native American descent. She had several tattoos on her arm. One said, "Love you," and then the name Shirley in a heart below that, and then the word Seattle below the heart. And one that says, "Mother, I love you," with a rose tattooed kind of between the words. These very distinct tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be clear, Ventura County and Kern County Jane Does had a lot in common. Both were sexually assaulted. Both had been stabbed. They'd been killed within a few days of one another. But despite these similarities, these crimes actually happened nearly 150 miles apart. So when this happens in 1980, no one makes the connection between them. And in 2008, when W's DNA is matched to the DNA from the Kern County crime scene, again, the connection isn't made to the Ventura County Jane Doe.
And where was W living? Was he living closer to the Kern County area or the Ventura area?
He's kind of like in between both. Both are a drive for him.
Okay.
Right. Now, in 2008, upon finding out that W might be connected to this case, W is questioned but doesn't admit involvement in the Kern County case. Ultimately, Kern County officials declined to prosecute the case. We've seen this before, but basically counties sometimes don't want to take on the expense of a trial if the person is already in prison. Now, it is clear that at some point they started wondering about Ventura County Jane Doe, because in 2013 we know he is questioned about her, probably given the similarities in the cases, but again, he denies knowing her.
And they didn't test the DNA on that one?
No, so the DNA at that point had
At
not
that
been
point.
tested.
Okay.
Now, again, another major thing happens. And that's that the Ventura County DA's cold case investigator, Stephen Rhodes, and his team begin working on Ventura County Jane Doe's case. Okay, so Rhodes made clear his frustration with the initial investigation on her case from the start. Looking through the old notes, he realized that the original investigative team thought that Ventura County Jane Doe might be a sex worker. And he said, I can't figure out where that comes from. I ask everybody, what's a prostitute look like? Why would you dismiss her that way?
Exactly. And even if she was, shouldn't we still be paying attention to the case?
Yeah, so this is like one of those things. It's like, oh, like on the surface, like Rhodes is saying something like, you know, what seems like positive, but also I'm like, but shouldn't it, like, if she was a sex worker?
Right. Like, why would you dismiss her that way?
Right?
Yeah. It should be, why would you dismiss her at all? Period.
Yeah. But in any case, he is invested in her case. Now, Greg Hayes is a member of Stephen Rhodes' team, and he asked the sheriff's department for DNA tests to be done on Ventura County Jane Doe's pants and underwear that were still held in storage. This is specifically because there is DNA from her attacker on those items. Now, this is run, and the results come back quickly, and they're uploaded to CODIS, which is a centralized crime database. And there's a match. It's W's DNA on Ventura County Jane Doe. In following this lead, they then learned that he was suspected in the murder of Kern County Jane Doe.
So I wasn't completely off base when I called him a serial killer.
Yeah. I mean, he is a serial killer.
He is a
They
serial
just didn't
killer.
know it at the time
Right.
of the potential paroling, right?
Okay.
Now, Rhodes goes to work. He needs to convince his office to move forward with an arrest for the murders of these two women. He compiled his work, making it clear the evidence against W, but the case is initially rejected. They're not feeling good about it. Now, neither of the women are identified. Like, sure, like that might be a red flag, but one of the problems is that the prosecution was worried that a case wouldn't work because they were concerned that they could only prove that W had sexual intercourse with both women around the time of their murders, meaning a defense could claim consensual sex and that they could have been murdered by someone else.
Okay. I believe in coincidences, but that's too much.
Right.
Too much.
Now, Rhodes, like, he's not letting this case be. He finds Scott, that teenage boy who had to clean out the car.
Okay.
Now, he's a middle-aged man, and he is actually willing to testify about what he knows. Rhodes also showed evidence that Ventura County Jane Doe's case, the semen had pooled inside her, and so he presented evidence that if she had stood up, this wouldn't have been the case.
Oh.
Meaning that her killer had to be the same person whose semen was left behind.
Right. Ugh.
Yeah. So that's where I was like, ugh, there has to be some detailed information to actually understand.
There has to be. Also, I mean, I'm glad he brought up that argument, but at the same time, he must have just been like,
yeah,
this is awful.
Yeah. Like
having to explain this to people.
The emotional toll, these cases, like he had to like actually make a PowerPoint presentation about this.
So he knew she never stood up after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
So finally, a lawyer agreed to take the case, and W is arrested and charged with these crimes. Now, they're hoping to convince him to just confess, right? So W is questioned again, and again, he denies involvement. He claims the DNA was not his. So the team worked harder. They're hoping to bring in W's adult daughter. Yes, he has an adult daughter, to try to convince him, but this plan didn't work either. Yeah, he's not budging on it. So eventually the case would have to go to trial. He's facing charges of murder for Kern County Jane Doe, Ventura County Jane Doe, and Ventura County's fetus. They had hoped to argue that her fetus was of viable age, meaning that she was far along enough in her pregnancy that the child could survive outside the womb. Now, this trial went much the way you would expect, with the evidence laid out and the defense, yes, arguing that W may have had sex with the victims. There wasn't evidence that it was rape, and there wasn't evidence that he murdered them. the prosecution encounters actually one major snag, and that's that Dr. Speth, who had done the initial autopsy on Ventura County Jane Doe, refused to testify.
Wait, the doctor refused to testify?
Yeah, so he's the one who did the autopsy.
Why? Why would he not want to?
Oh, so this is an interesting side story. Like, we would have to take a little bit of a detour.
Okay.
Like, do you want to hear it?
I want to hear it because, like, isn't that what the person doing the autopsy is supposed to do?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So this is a little bit more complicated, but essentially in 1980, so the same year that both of these Jane Does were murdered, Dr. Speth had done an analysis of another murder victim by the name of Charlene Smith. Charlene and her husband, Lyman, had been murdered in Ventura County, and their case had never been solved. But Charlene had been raped during the assault, and Dr. Speth collected evidence from this in a rape kit. Over many, many years, this kit had been used over and over by scientists and investigators, and it was essentially destroyed. So as they're trying to find Charlene and Lyman's killer. Because, you see, like, the two of them were thought to be connected to a much bigger series of murders, assaults, and robberies in Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Orange counties in the 1970s and 80s.
Okay.
Now, the unidentified killer had been called the East Area Rapist until crime writer Michelle McNamara dubbed him the Golden State Killer. So you're probably wondering, like, what does this have to do with anything?
Right.
Okay, so now they continued to use this rape kit from Charlene until there wasn't enough DNA information to run further tests. But in a weird bit of fate, for some reason, Dr. Speth had actually done 2 kits on Charlene. Which is not typical.
Okay.
And the second kit was located, and they were able to use that to link Charlene and Lyman to the killer and then also help identify him.
To the Golden State Killer?
Golden State Killer,
okay.
Yeah. That man, who we're just going to call Jay, was about to go to trial for those crimes, and Dr. Speth was set to serve as a witness in that case as well. But Dr. Speth was worried. Speth had briefly lost his license in the 1990s, and even though his medical license was reinstated and the case which caused him to lose his license expunged, someone told Dr. Speth that he would have to answer questions about his loss of license during W's trial, and he refused. He didn't want anything to jeopardize the case against Jay and thought this could cloud his record.
So he was doing it from a good place.
Right. So he kind of panicked because he was set to serve as witness in basically these 2 trials.
That is complicated.
Yeah.
So what did they end up doing?
Well, basically what happened is they tried to make him, and then he, like, literally ran away.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he
panicked.
He panicked, and he just, like, disappeared briefly. But thankfully, like, the prosecution actually found a workaround for this. They had taped Dr. Speth's testimony from the preliminary hearing against W, and they were able to use that recording instead.
So they didn't have to see Dr. Speth in person at all.
Right.
So he could stay panicking and running away.
Yes.
And they used okay, that's great.
Now, after a several weeks-long trial, a jury found W guilty of the murders of Ventura and Kern County Jane Doe. He was not convicted of the murder of Ventura County's fetus because there was that question of viability. They'd been unable to pinpoint the exact gestational age of the fetus, so it was determined she was somewhere between 4 and 5 months pregnant, and so there was like a question:
would it survive?
Would this survive? Right. Mm-hmm. Now, when sentencing W to 2 life sentences, Ventura County Superior Court Judge Ryan J. Wright said that he found tremendous amount of professional satisfaction in sentencing W. He said, "Your last breath is going to be taken in state prison exactly where you deserve to be, and that's on my order."
Okay, so we know who killed Ventura County Jane Doe, but we don't know who she is still.
Yeah.
It's so weird, right? Like,
yeah, so like neither Kern County Jane Doe or Ventura.
Still Kern County either?
Yeah. So they haven't been
okay
identified. And so like that would be kind of where most podcasts would end. Like,
well, because what is
the
there more to say?
Away,
right.
But like, because we're victim centered.
Right. I still want to know what happened to the woman on the hill. Yeah.
Now, the fact that these 2 women were left with out identification, never sat well with Rhodes, right? So
Okay.
he's like, I am going to find their families, particularly their mothers, like,
Oh.
yeah, that they want to have them back. So he found the DNA Doe Project online. So for our new listeners, the DNA Doe Project is a volunteer investigative genetic genealogy organization that works to use ancestry sites to learn who unidentified individuals are.
We love them. They're very cool people.
Now, early work on Ventura County Jane Doe's DNA had shown that at least 60% of her DNA is considered Native American, and this is primarily on her mother's side of the family. But volunteers got to work using sites like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA to learn more. While that work was happening, Kern County Jane Doe, her identification case was also turned over to the DNA Doe Project. They uploaded her information into those same sites and could see immediately that there were family matches. There was one problem, though. They couldn't see who those matches were. Now, for explanation for how this works, most consumers use a DNA test site like Ancestry or 23andMe, or if you're me, both. We like to overachieve.
Yeah.
Ancestry has about 25 million DNA kit users, and 23andMe is about 15 million. Okay, but law enforcement or investigative genetic genealogy specialists, they can't use those databases, their DNA information, to identify individuals. Instead, they use sites that allow for that, like GEDmatch or Family Tree.
Okay. Yeah. So now I know what that means.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, those sites work a bit differently. If you're a consumer, you have to download your information from, say, Ancestry or 23andMe and upload it to those sites.
Mm-hmm.
These have far fewer users. For instance, GEDmatch has around 1.5 million people who have done this. And due to privacy concerns, a portion of those individuals have opted not to have their profiles visible to those in law enforcement or those working investigative genetic genealogy cases. So in the case of Kern County Jane Doe, they could see that matches existed in those databases, but they couldn't see any details about who those people are.
They can't access that information.
No.
So that's like two of the things we talk about quite frequently with these kind of kits is that, one, you don't have to be hesitant to do it because nobody can use your information.
Right.
But then the second one is if you are okay with sharing your information, you should.
Right. And so they can't see like your raw data. They just can see like your proportion of relation to someone.
Right.
Now, so they're taking this. They're on Kern County Jane Doe. And finally, in September 2019, a second cousin just so happened to upload their information. And from there, they were able to build out Kern County Jane Doe trees more. They know she had bloodlines that trace back to indigenous populations in Alberta with some connections in Montana. But from there, they hit another brick wall. In February 2020, the DNA Doe Project put out a specific plea asking for people to share information about Kern County Jane Doe, particularly to Indigenous and Native American social media groups. Now, sitting in Canada, there's a woman named Violet, and Violet had been tasked by her grandmother to find Violet's aunt, Shirley.
Wasn't there a Shirley in the Heart?
There was a Shirley in the Heart.
Oh.
So Shirley was last seen at a family funeral at the Samson Cree Reservation in 1977. Now, Shirley's life had been pretty difficult. Her two sons had been taken from her after a custody issue with her ex. One had ended up in foster care, the other one was adopted, and she also soon lost custody of her infant daughter as well. She worked as a domestic worker in Vancouver and sent money home to her family, but she also struggled with addiction. Now, though Shirley was away from home, she also sent things like Christmas cards. The last one they received was, I believe, in 1979. And Violet spent most of her adult life looking for her aunt, driving countless times to Vancouver and Seattle looking for her. She even uploaded her DNA info to Ancestry to help find Shirley's children. Finally, in 2019, Violet stood in a room full of other women and said that she needed to let her aunt go. She just couldn't keep going on searching for her. But 4 days later, she saw the DNA Doe Project's information online, and she knew it was her aunt. She'd actually told Shirley, almost kind of in jest or with very dark humor, that she should get tattoos in case she ever went missing.
So that was her own name on her body?
Yeah, so I think
Oh my goodness.
for a very long time, what typically happens is when someone has a name on them, like you think it's like for
Somebody
a loved one.
else. Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was for Shirley Suse is her name.
So her own name was on her this entire time.
Yeah.
That's incredibly sad.
Yeah. And like one of the reasons that Violet had kind of made this joke in the first place is because of the high prevalence of crime against Native women.
Right. And then for Shirley to hear this and then actually get the tattoo,
Yeah.
go missing, and then everybody's probably just looking for Shirley
Yeah,
when that's who they had.
exactly. Whew. Yeah. So after a match was confirmed, Violet traveled to Bakersfield, California, where her aunt was buried. There, an elder from an Indian tribe led a graveside service for Shirley. On May 27, 2022, though, Shirley's body was returned to her community of the Samson Cree Nation in Edmonton. Now, while volunteers were celebrating the success of identifying Shirley, Ventura County Jane Doe remained unidentified, and the work was slow going. They were experiencing the same difficulties, like there's just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hoping to find a new angle, investigators ran DNA tests on Ventura County Jane Doe's fetus.
Get dad's info?
Yep.
Okay.
So they're hoping that would help them figure out who she is. Now, they pinpointed him as a Honduran immigrant who had ties to Koreatown, that area of Los Angeles. And when investigators located him, they spoke with him by phone, but he denied knowing Ventura Jane Doe or being the father of her unborn child, despite DNA evidence.
That's weird.
That is weird, but in 1980, the man had actually been married. I believe he might still be married, and he was expecting a child with his wife. So,
Why did he deny?
well, because he would then, if this like blew up into a bigger case, he might have to reveal to his wife that he had cheated on her and
Okay.
with someone else.
Mm.
Yeah.
But do you want to really be married to the man that not only cheated on you, but also withheld that information?
Well, she wouldn't
And
know.
got in the way of the case? I know, but it's just like,
Yeah.
we're bad on all accounts.
So he's basically, I'm assuming this is what's happening, is like keeping his family.
So he had
from-
2 children on the way at the same
Yeah.
time? Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he no longer lives in California. It's unclear if investigators have made contact with him recently. It's also unclear how much information he is able to give, like what his exact relationship with Ventura County Jane Doe might be. Now, for Ventura County Jane Doe's lineage, they have built out quite a tree for her. In 2023, the DNA Doe Project asked if anyone had ties to 5 sisters of the Parga family. They're Monica, Basilia, Feliciana, Josefa, and Sotera. They were the children of Martin Parga and Caterina Montiano. These are Ventura County Jane Doe's ancestors on her father's side. Martin Parga was the son of Aniceto Parga and Maria de Jesus Lira, and it's believed that both Ventura County Jane Doe's parents have some connection in this lineage. Like that, basically they share some family trees.
Okay.
Now, she is connected to a community of people living in the Belvedere and Boyle Heights areas of East Los Angeles.
So wait, we seem to know a lot about her. Why is she not identified?
Well, I think 2 things are going on here. Like,
Do we know but we don't know?
yeah, so it's like quite a widespread family tree is my understanding. One, some of the people that they've talked to don't know of any missing relatives in their family line.
Okay.
The second one, I think some fear is keeping people from coming forward. So based on her ancestry, many of her relatives have connections throughout northeastern and central Mexico. Rhodes says that when he called and knocked on doors of potential family members, hoping he'll learn something about Ventura County Jane Doe, like people aren't very forthcoming. He believes that they're worried about getting in trouble somehow.
Okay. So they might not be legally here, something along those lines, or something else
Possibly.
might be happening within their family.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. So for now, Ventura County Jane Doe remains unidentified. And we're going to share a full list of those surnames and locations that the DNA Doe Project cited as potential matches for her on our social media accounts. For now, she's buried at the Conejo Mountain Memorial Park in Camarillo, just as she has been since 1980, when she was laid to rest, the month after her murder.
Stillness Guzzle. Unidentified woman discovered July 18th, 1980, in Thousand Oaks, California. The whole world is burning down, and we're still here at the edge, mothering strangers still. Through the flickering lights, past the devils, in the shadows, their knives drawn, we search still. The young deer make their way through groves, new almond shells green, the summer air before dawn still. What if we could watch for them instead? Follow the slim lines of their legs through the grass still. You and I could pretend the night didn't spin close, that we couldn't hear cars on the highway still. Imagine laying on our backs in a high school parking lot, watching the stars above without peering into the dark still. We could breathe our names into the light, hold them up in the moonlight. But in this world, we say Ventura still.
For more information about our show or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcast.com. Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.